I walked into the Amish farmhouse on a Tuesday afternoon in mid-August, and the first thing my body did was confused. It was 94 degrees outside. I had just driven 45 minutes from Philadelphia with my car's air conditioning running on max, and I was still sweating when I parked in the gravel driveway. I stepped onto the porch, took off my shoes the way the family had asked me to, and walked through the front door into the main living room. The temperature inside that house was 71 degrees. I am not exaggerating. I checked. I had brought a small digital thermometer with me specifically for this trip because I wanted to verify what I had been told about Amish homes. The reading on the thermometer was 71.4 degrees Fahrenheit in a house with no air conditioning, no electric fans, no central HVAC, no window units, and no electricity of any kind. The temperature outside, measured in the same shaded driveway 30 seconds earlier, was 94.6 degrees. That is a 23-degree difference between the outside air and the inside of a 180-year-old wooden farmhouse with no mechanical cooling system whatsoever. The woman who lived in the house, her name was Esther Yoder, saw the look on my face and laughed. She told me her family had lived in that house through 6 generations of Pennsylvania summers, including several heat waves where the outdoor temperature exceeded 100 degrees for multiple consecutive days. None of those summers had required a single mechanical cooling device. Her grandmother had raised 11 children in the same house without ever owning a fan. Her great-grandmother had survived the heat wave of 1936, when 5,000 Americans died from heat-related causes across the eastern United States, by doing nothing more than what every Amish family in the district was already doing. 7 specific techniques. Combined, they keep the inside of an Amish home between 68 and 74 degrees during summer, even when the outdoor temperature climbs into the high 90s. None of them require electricity. None of them require expensive equipment. None of them require modern building materials. And every single one of them has been quietly engineered out of the average American home over the last 90 years. In 1925, the United States had no central air conditioning industry to speak of. Total industry revenue in that year was roughly $2 million in modern dollars. By 1955, the residential AC industry had reached $1 billion. By 2024, the global air conditioning market crossed $135 billion annually. The average American household now spends between $400 and $1,100 per year on summer cooling, for a level of comfort that the Amish achieve for $0. Not low, not cheap, zero. After the last video on the 25 hydrogen peroxide hacks, hundreds of you asked the same question. Now that summer is coming, how do the Amish stay cool? What do they actually do when it gets hot? Is it just thick walls, or is there more to it? So I went back to Esther's farmhouse for a second visit. I spent 2 full days walking through every part of the house with her. The basement, the attic, the windows, the porches, the cellar, the kitchen, the bedrooms, and documenting every single technique her family uses to keep that house cool without mechanical help. I came home with 7 methods. I am going to walk you through all 7 in this video, but first I have to tell you about method number 4. It is the one that stopped me cold, because when I went home and researched it, I found out that it was originally documented in a 1932 USDA bulletin titled Cooling the American Farmhouse, a 53-page document that was widely distributed to rural American families through the Great Depression and the years leading up to World War II. That bulletin disappeared from federal circulation in 1958. The same year the United States Census Bureau first measured residential air conditioning penetration as a national statistic. The same year that General Electric, Carrier, and York launched coordinated nationwide marketing campaigns positioning central air conditioning as a modern necessity. The same year that the entire Federal Extension Service stopped teaching passive cooling techniques in agricultural education programs. You will see why in a moment. Let me show you all 7 methods. Meth door, ZFET door. The orientation of the house itself. Every Amish farmhouse I have visited in Lancaster County has the same orientation. The long side of the house faces north and south. The short sides face east and west. This is not a coincidence. It is not aesthetic preference. It is one of the oldest and most powerful passive cooling techniques ever developed by humans, and Amish builders have followed it without exception for over 250 years. Here is why it works. The sun rises in the east, climbs to its highest point in the southern sky, and sets in the west. The east and west sides of any building are exposed to direct, low-angle sunlight for several hours each day during summer. The morning sun in the east, the afternoon sun in the west. Low-angle sunlight is the most aggressive form of solar heating because it strikes the wall surface at an angle that maximizes absorbed energy. By orienting the long sides of the house toward the north and south, the Amish minimize the total surface area exposed to that low-angle morning and afternoon sun. The south-facing long wall gets only high-angle midday sun, which is far less intense at the wall level. The north-facing wall gets almost no direct sunlight in summer. A 1996 study from the University of Oregon School of Architecture measured the cooling load difference between north-south oriented homes and east-west oriented homes of identical construction in identical climates. The north-south oriented homes required 23 to 41% less cooling energy in summer than the east-west oriented homes. Modern American suburban developments are almost universally laid out based on street geometry, with no consideration for solar orientation. Most modern homes face whatever direction the street happens to face. The result is that millions of American homes are built in orientations that maximize summer heat gain, and then their owners spend hundreds of dollars per year on air conditioning to undo that single architectural mistake. The Amish have never made that mistake. Method 2. The deep covered porch. Every Amish farmhouse has a deep covered porch running along its south-facing side. Not a small porch, not a decorative porch. A deep covered porch, usually 8 to 12 feet deep, that extends the roof line outward and creates a permanent shaded zone along the entire south-facing wall. This porch is doing something almost no modern home does anymore. It is preventing the south wall of the house from ever receiving direct summer sunlight at all. Here is the geometry. During summer, the sun rises high in the southern sky. At solar noon in late June, the sun in Pennsylvania reaches an altitude of about 72 degrees above the horizon. Sunlight at that angle does not travel sideways. It travels almost straight down. A porch roof that extends 10 feet outward from the south wall casts a shadow that covers the entire south wall from the foundation all the way up to the second floor windows. The same porch in winter, when the sun travels through the sky at a much lower angle, about 25 degrees above the horizon at noon in late December, allows direct sunlight to pass underneath the porch roof and warm the south wall and windows during the cold months. A single architectural feature, the deep covered porch, provides automatic seasonal climate control. Cool shade in summer, warm sunlight in winter, no moving parts, no electricity, no thermostat. Modern American homes have replaced the deep covered porch with small decorative entry porches that provide no thermal shading whatsoever. The result is south walls that bake in direct summer sun and freeze in winter. The HVAC system runs constantly to compensate for the missing porch. Method 3, thick stone or heavy timber walls. The walls of Esther's farmhouse are 14 inches thick. They are constructed of native fieldstone on the lower level with a thick interior layer of plaster and lath and a small air gap between the stone and the interior wall. The upper level is built from heavy hand-hewn timber, also with thick interior plaster. This wall construction performs two thermal functions at once. First, it provides what physicists call thermal mass, the ability of a material to absorb heat slowly during the day and release it slowly during the night. Stone has one of the highest thermal mass values of any building material. A 14-inch stone wall can absorb a tremendous amount of summer afternoon heat without changing its surface temperature significantly. By the time that absorbed heat would normally transfer to the interior of the house, the sun has set, the outside air has cooled, and the wall releases its absorbed heat to the cooler outside air rather than the interior. Second, the air gap between the stone and the interior wall acts as an insulating layer that further slows heat transfer. The result is a wall system that lags behind the outdoor temperature by about 8 to 10 hours. When the outside air is at its hottest in the afternoon, the inside of the wall is still cool from the previous night. When the outside air finally cools down at night, the wall begins releasing its absorbed heat outward instead of inward. Modern American homes use thin walls of 2x4 lumber, fiberglass insulation, and drywall, a construction system designed for fast assembly, not thermal performance. The walls have almost no thermal mass. They heat up within hours of sun exposure and cool down within hours of sun absence. The result is an interior temperature that swings rapidly throughout the day, which is exactly what makes air conditioning necessary. The Amish wall system makes air conditioning largely unnecessary. Method 4, the lime-washed roof and attic ventilation system. This is the method I mentioned at the beginning, the one documented in the 1932 USDA bulletin that disappeared from federal circulation in 1958. Every Amish farmhouse I have visited has a roof that has been treated with lime wash, a thin, white, mineral-based coating that is applied directly to the roof surface every 3 to 5 years. The coating is bright white. From the air, an Amish farmstead looks like a cluster of brightly lit buildings even at midday because the roofs reflect rather than absorb sunlight. A 2011 study by Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory measured the temperature difference between dark asphalt shingle roofs and white-coated reflective roofs in summer. The dark roofs reached surface temperatures of 165 to 180 degrees Fahrenheit on a 95-degree day. The white-coated roofs measured 95 to 105 degrees on the same day, a difference of 60 to 75 degrees on a surface that is directly connected to the attic immediately beneath it. The attic temperature of the dark roof home was 138 degrees. The attic temperature of the white roof home was 92 degrees. That heat differential then radiates into the rooms below, which is why upper floors of conventional American homes become unbearably hot in summer. The Amish lime wash technique reduces attic temperatures by 40 to 50 degrees. It costs about $7 per application for a typical farmhouse. It lasts 3 to 5 years. The total annual cost is roughly $2 per home for a treatment that does the work of a $10,000 central air conditioning installation. Combined with the second part of this method, passive attic ventilation through cupolas, gable vents, and ridge vents, hot air that does enter the attic is allowed to escape upward and outward through buoyancy alone. No fan, no power, just the natural tendency of hot air to rise out of openings provided at the top of the structure. The 1932 USDA bulletin documented all of this in detail. The bulletin included diagrams, application instructions, ventilation requirements, and exact specifications for ridge vents and gable vents. It was distributed to over 2 million American farm households between 1932 and 1957. In 1958, the bulletin was withdrawn. No replacement was issued. The technique was simply removed from Federal Extension Service curriculum, removed from agricultural college courses, and removed from public health recommendations. Within 20 years, the standard American roof had become dark asphalt shingles with no reflective coating, sealed attics with minimal ventilation, and a central air conditioning system installed to manage the heat the new design choices had introduced. The Amish never made any of those changes. Method 5. Strategic window operation. This one sounds simple. It is more sophisticated than it appears. Esther showed me her summer routine for the house windows. At sunrise, she opens every window in the house, top and bottom sashes on the double-hung windows, screens secured in place. The cool morning air, which is typically 15 to 25 degrees cooler than the daytime peak, flows freely through the house. Within 30 minutes, the entire interior is filled with this cool morning air. By 9 in the morning, she begins closing windows on the east-facing side as the morning sun shifts. By 11 o'clock, she closes the south-facing windows. By 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the only windows still open are the small windows on the north-facing side in the shade. Curtains are drawn on all the closed windows. By 4 o'clock in the afternoon, when the outdoor temperature is at its peak, the entire house is sealed up tight. No outside air is allowed in. The cool morning air that was captured at sunrise is now trapped inside, supplemented by the thermal lag of the thick stone walls, which are still releasing the previous night's coolness into the interior. By 7 o'clock in the evening, as the outdoor temperature begins to drop, Esther begins opening windows again, starting with the north-facing side. By 9, every window is open once more. The house releases the small amount of heat it has accumulated during the day and refills with the cool evening air. This is not air conditioning. It is air management. The same technique was practiced in nearly every American home before the 1950s. It has been almost completely forgotten, not because it stopped working, but because it required active participation by the homeowner. Air conditioning replaced the technique because it required no human effort, only money. The Amish are willing to do the work. The temperature inside their houses reflects it. Method 6. The cool cellar as summer refuge. Every Amish farmhouse has a deep basement or root cellar. Most have both. These spaces serve obvious functions during the year: food storage, canned goods, cool dairy storage. But during summer afternoons, they serve another function that almost no modern American home replicates. During the hottest hours of summer days, between roughly 1 and 4 in the afternoon, Amish families often spend time in the cellar, not for storage, for relief. The cellar of Esther's house sits 8 feet below ground level. The temperature in the cellar, measured by my thermometer on the same August afternoon, was 58 degrees Fahrenheit. Outside the house, it was 94. Inside the upstairs living room, it was 71. In the cellar, it was 58. Esther told me that during the worst heat waves of her childhood, her grandmother would set up sewing tables, reading chairs, and small workbenches in the cellar. The whole family would move their daytime activities underground for the duration of the heat wave. Cooler than any modern air-conditioned home, with zero electricity required. Modern American homes with basements rarely use them this way. The basement is either an unfinished storage space avoided during summer or a finished entertainment area that is air-conditioned along with the rest of the house. The natural 50 to 60 degree ambient temperature of the underground space is rarely exploited as the primary cooling resource it actually is. The Amish use the earth itself as their air conditioner. Method 7, the summer kitchen. This is the last method, and it is the one that most surprised me when I learned about it. Esther does not cook in her main kitchen during summer. She has a separate small building, about 10 feet by 12 feet, located approximately 30 feet behind the main farmhouse. This building is called the summer kitchen. It contains a full wood-burning cook stove, a small countertop, a sink with a hand pump, and basic food preparation supplies. From late May through early September, all heat-intensive cooking, bread baking, canning, meat roasting, soup making is done in the summer kitchen rather than the main house. This solves a problem that almost no modern American kitchen addresses. Cooking generates enormous amounts of heat. A wood-burning stove operating at full capacity for 4 hours of bread baking can raise the temperature of a typical kitchen by 15 to 25 degrees. That heat then radiates throughout the entire house, and the air conditioning system runs harder to remove it. By relocating heat-intensive cooking to an outbuilding 30 feet away, the Amish prevent that heat from ever entering the main house. The main house stays cool. The summer kitchen, which is used only during cooking, can be left to its own heat. It cools down passively after the stove is turned off, and the heat dissipates into the outdoor air without ever affecting the living quarters. This technique was nearly universal in rural American homes before electrification. By 1920, nearly every farmhouse east of the Mississippi had a summer kitchen. By 1960, almost none did. The technique was abandoned not because it stopped working, but because it required the labor of walking 30 feet to cook. Modern Americans traded that 30-foot walk for a central air conditioning system that runs 16 hours a day to undo the heat their main kitchen creates. The Amish kept the 30-foot walk. The bigger picture, 7 methods. Combined, they keep an Amish farmhouse 20 to 25 degrees cooler than the surrounding outdoor air on summer days, with zero electricity, zero mechanical equipment, and a total annual cost of approximately $2 per household for the lime wash treatment. Compare that to the average American home, which spends $400 to $1,100 a year on summer cooling, requires $5,000 to $15,000 worth of HVAC equipment that needs to be replaced every 10 to 15 years, and still does not achieve the same level of indoor comfort during extreme heat waves. In 1932, the federal government documented these techniques and distributed them to over 2 million American farm households. In 1958, that document quietly disappeared. In the 65 years since, an entire residential cooling industry has been built on the absence of the original knowledge. The dark roofs, the missing porches, the thin walls, the sealed windows, the abandoned basements, the indoor kitchens, every single architectural choice that makes air conditioning necessary is a recent invention of the construction and HVAC industries. The Amish did not invent these cooling techniques. They simply never abandoned them. You were never supposed to know it was that simple. Now you do. Drop your state in the comments and tell me one thing. Which of the 7 methods is the one you cannot believe nobody ever told you about? Because the patterns in this comment section are starting to map something the $135 billion air conditioning industry has spent 65 years pretending does not exist. That the human race kept itself cool in every climate on Earth for 10,000 years without a single watt of electricity. Hit subscribe, not for me, for what comes next. Because next week, I am going to show you the Amish winter heating system that keeps farmhouses warm at 35 degrees below zero with no furnace, no gas, no propane, and no electricity. and the 1947 oil industry document that quietly killed the original American household heating system. The knowledge was never lost.